Hello and good afternoon from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Scott Lee and will be your host today. I'm joined by John Mueller. We have people trickling in right now. Um, we're going to hopefully try to keep this webinar, follow-up webinar, just as tight as we can from a time perspective. I think I've gone through and maybe we can get it all taken care of in about 45 minutes. Might run a little bit longer, but I think we also have you capped it for an hour according to the calendar. If anyone, just a couple of housekeeping things. If anyone wants to ask any questions during the webinar, please, there's a section at the bottom of your Zoom called chat. Go ahead and type those questions into that chat window. John is going to help me moderate that. We've got a couple of slides for you real quick, and I'm going to try to keep this quick as well. This is just a follow-up from the GEOINT event. We're a couple of minutes behind that, but we've had a lot of progress going on in engineering and a lot of other things going on inside the company. So a little bit behind, but wanted to get out front of the Esri International User Conference, which is next week. We're going to be exhibiting there at booth 325. If anyone is attending, please come by and see us. Another colleague, Joe Abuela, and I will be on the show floor. Again, that's booth 325. So please feel free to stop by and see us during that event. John, can you just confirm that you can see my slides, and we'll go ahead and get started?
You're good to go, Scott.
All right, thanks. Again, the chat session there, I'm joined by John. He's going to help run through a little bit of a demo for us. Just a quick overview of our technology and why people are using it, both in the defense and federal space, internationally, and commercially. PDF has inherent compression capability, so it's ideal for people who don't have a solid internet connection or an internet connection at all. These files are small, they can easily be emailed. We're going to show you technology today around 2D, both for imagery and out of the ArcGIS Pro environment. We also have a business partner relationship with BAE Systems and their Socket GXP platform, where you can create 2D or 3D GeoPDF products. If you are not inside of the GXP ecosystem and you do have elevation data and imagery, we can help you create 3D GeoPDF products as well. We're not going to cover that topic today, but if you're interested and want to put some information inside of the chat, please feel free and we'll make sure we get you some information. We're going to show you layered geospatial products out of the ArcGIS Pro environment, but also how imagery can be layered as in reference to multispectral data, and actually leveraging Adobe and the layering tool there to change band combinations, which is pretty interesting capability. Multiple coordinate displays, we have a lot of international customers and they don't always work in a military grid reference system or longitude and latitude. They want to view the data or view the information with different projection parameters. So we honor that. And again, probably the most powerful item is being able to open these products up in a free Adobe Reader environment and leveraging our free toolbar to be able to do markups. And annotate a map using all free tools. The GeoPDF itself, what we've done is imparted a capability that the general public can start to understand some basic geospatial principles. We're not going to turn everyone into a GIS analyst. If it's an end user working on a utility pole, or if it is a decision maker that needs spatial information to make an informed decision. Geospatial, as we all understand, has proliferated across so many different markets, if it's transportation or real estate or disaster assessments and disaster management, transportation, not to mention the litany of other facilities management and other uses for geospatial information. So being able to deliver a product that a decision maker can look at, maybe select an individual feature and find out more information about that feature. Take some simple measurements, box off an area and say, give me more information about this specific facility or the assets that are inside of that facility. So there are obviously a litany of uses. And most importantly, we understand the importance of geospatial data, and spatial data is hard. So being able to give that spatial data to someone to make a decision in an intuitive environment and let them answer some of their own questions is what we really want to impart with these products. Instead of having data tied up in a silo all the time and making it difficult to access different types of content, we make it really easy. So just some of our footprint. This is across the commercial space as well as the federal space. Millions and millions of these products have been created. We have a customer who has automated routines to convert imagery in a batch routine. So as they receive data from a data provider, they're automatically converting that data directly to GeoPDF, which makes that content much more accessible and be able to answer their own questions. Geospatial and imagery analysts, which this webcast is primarily geared toward 5,000 customers. We're a global organization as well. Over 100 federal agencies. You see the 26 foreign nations. A lot of that is on the defense and intelligence side, but we also have people in minerals exploitation and petroleum exploration. It's, again, global uses and for many different markets. Our GeoPDF toolbar, which I encourage anyone to download, is free, plugs directly into the Adobe Reader environment. And it's hard to say exactly how many installations of the free Adobe Reader exist, but we can confidently say that over 3 million people have downloaded our GeoPDF toolbar that plugs directly into Adobe. You can also push that across the enterprise. If you want it supported, we have an agreement for that as well. And then we're always available to do online training. We do have some things that are pre-recorded on the website as well. The YouTube page has plenty of videos as well. And if you need someone to come on site, a larger group, we're happy to accommodate that as well. Some of the vertical customer bases: state and local, energy, public safety, natural resources. You see, we all just wherever there is a geospatial footprint, we are pretty much in that industry as well. What we're going to talk about today is to produce GeoPDFs. Again, I mentioned Socket and Esri, ArcGIS Pro. Here's some of the key capabilities here. Today, we're going to talk about the Raster capability, which is completely standalone, and it's a standalone application to identify your TIFF or your NITF or IMG product directly to GeoPDF. Again, this data, spatial data, is hard. So part of that complexity is the size of this content, and being able to compress an image at a 30:1 ratio is very beneficial for sharing this type of content. Another thing we're going to show you is that toolbar that I said was installed in confidently over 3 million desktops around the world. I'm going to show you some of these capabilities, the markups at the conclusion, toward the end of the webcast. We also have a composer product that lets you create that 3D product that I discussed that's standalone. But again, if you are a Socket GXP user and using imagery on a daily basis, it's very simple to identify an elevation file, if that's a point cloud or a grid TIFF or whatever the case may be. We handle 4 or 5 different elevation data types, and then drape an image directly on top of it. And that's all done with our 3D Composer product. And that is a plugin to the paid for Adobe Acrobat tool. So our free GeoPDF toolbar goes into the free Adobe Reader and the paid for Adobe tool to create these map books, and 3D GeoPDF products works exclusively inside of the paid for Adobe tool. And that's all on the creation. Again, all of the consumer needs is the free Adobe Reader and our free GeoPDF toolbar. So again, widest possible net to deliver all of this complex data that we have access to, and all of these products that we have access to, up and down the chain, from decision maker down to end user. With that, I'm going to go ahead and just hop in real quick to our Raster product. It's a standalone tool. It can be licensed either at the desktop level or concurrently. And I have a couple of products that I wanted to, or I'm going to show you a couple of different products, but I'm going to show you the process of actually creating one of these GeoPDFs from an image file. So let me navigate here to my proper directory. And in this case, I am going to convert a SID file. So these files are quite large, and for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose the smaller one, but I'm going to show you another capability here. After I select my destination output folder, which is going to be data imagery and outgoing, select OK. So I have a couple of different things here. I'm going to show you there is a preview capability that will let me see how large that imaged area actually is. Shows up right here in your preview screen. But to make things a little bit easier and a little bit faster, for the sake of you, a lot of times users don't have to have this huge image file. And again, we want to pass this around via email or whatever the case may be. So I can actually go in and subset this product. And I do that just by drawing a box in the area that I actually want to export. So a way to even make the data set smaller. We're already going to be compressing the product, but I can make this area even smaller. So this is the area that's actually going to be output. Let me show you a couple of preferences as well. So you have the option for some logging here. If there's an error which occurs, it has to open the GeoPDF file. I can set the resolution. For individual images here, these are the image formats that we do support. I'm working with Mr. Sid. So the image, the style, if there's grayscale or dynamic RGB, the default is actually the dynamic RGB. And whenever I create a GeoPDF product, I have a ton of PDF files on my computer, but I generally just put an _geo at the end of the file name. And that way it's easy for me to recognize and identify that that is actually a GeoPDF product. Just one of the practices that I use here. I can set DPI. I can apply a histogram stretch if I choose to do so. Identify what you see, what the tile dimensions actually are. There are compression capabilities as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Any of those items in those preferences can be overridden here in this main dialog. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually export the product to generate the GeoPDF. It'll take a second here, and while we're doing that export, I wanted to show you another product that actually has multispectral data as well. So this is in a greater Houston area, actually. I can actually come in and change band combinations. So if I want to change to a 3-2-1 band combination, then I actually have true color here. It's nice that this is multispectral. So now I have I can pull my vegetation directly out as well. And some of the capabilities on that are available are the GeoPDF toolbar. And just to give you a quick glimpse of what that is, it's actually 2 toolbars, and we'll go into further detail there. That's the GeoPDF toolbar, and then there is a GeoMark toolbar, and that's where I talked about adding additional content information or additional content to an existing product. Okay. So that is the GeoPDF Publisher for a raster product, and it looks like that was completed. I'm going to say, yes, I want to view that GeoPDF, and it'll go ahead and launch up here in Adobe. So the toolbar, again, here is the subset of that image file, and we can look at the file size as well. So 15 megabytes, we've gotten that down. That much larger Mr. Sid file, which was, I think my original file size was the original file size for that Sid is 154 megabytes. And so now I've gotten just what's relevant to the user or the decision maker down to 15 megabytes. And we'll talk a little bit more about these toolbars here in just a second. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and input those into the chat on the Zoom session. Okay, so next we wanted to show you the GeoPDF Publisher for ArcGIS Pro. And it looks like we are doing fine on time as well. Here, this is a project that we use pretty regularly. I do a little bit of testing of the greater Denver area. There are actually multiple map sheets inside of this project. So it covers a lot of different areas around the greater Denver. There are 9 map sheets specifically with this. And John's going to help me go through. John's going to speak with me now, and we're going to go through some of these functions and capabilities. John's been with the company forever and with us forever as our resident GIS expert. So, John.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so this is ArcGIS Pro. And what we're going to walk through is the toolbar, the GeoPDF Publisher for ArcGIS Pro toolbar. What Scott's showing you right now is the external extension with the licensing page within Pro. So you kind of see there that once you do the install, you'll need to go in and click on that little button that says Enable. And that will allow you to take advantages of what we're about to show you. Within ArcGIS Pro, obviously we're going to start at the left and we're going to make our way across. So what Scott was showing you was, so we support map series. And Scott, let's just look at the data itself first inside the ArcGIS Pro environment. So what Scott's showing you right now is a map series. But in here, you've got all of your data, right? All of your layers. So you've got the grid that we're using for the map series, the imagery, all of the layers that I find relevant that I want to publish for those decision makers. Inside of here, you can set some things called pop-ups, and you can also turn on or off certain attribute fields. Those all those settings and also the scale dependencies. So all of those settings that you would normally set in Arc Pro, that would, give you the kind of the look and feel of the data as you're going through and you're panning around and you're zooming in. All of those same settings we support and export out to to that GeoPDF product. So with that said, yeah, Scott, if you click on the little TerraGo bullet up above, you're going to see about eight buttons. So there's from the left, there's an about. If you click on that, it just tells you a little bit about TerraGo, how to contact us. Also, the version of your software that's installed currently. So if you do run into some problems or you have questions, starting with this a little about button kind of helps to kind of get you to the to support, or at least just give you some information that you may be trying to look for.
Yeah, if there are any errors or anything like that, one of the first things that we're going to want to know is what version of ArcGIS Pro you're running, what version of TerraGo GeoPDF Publisher for ArcGIS Pro you're running. So that'll give us some good ideas. And there's also this enhanced logging capability that improves some of our error handling.
Yeah, so if you do reach out to support, they may ask you for that log file, and that's really going to be where you're going to grab it from. Next button on the toolbar, and it's got your screens. Yeah, there you go. There's the help. So if your screen's lagging just a little bit,
Sorry about that.
we'll wait for it to catch up here. There you go. So the next button on the toolbar was help, and that basically what that does is that drives you to our website. The website, if you scroll down, the website has a ton of tutorials, documentation, videos, and each one of those little bullet points right there, if you click on one of those, it'll actually drive you to the additional help information around those quick topics. So we built out a pretty good size library to help y'all kind of navigate through some of the tools and questions you might have as you begin to use this. So hopefully that will help. We're not really going to touch on this thing called default preferences. Basically what that is as you create a new map document in Arc Pro, you can set the DPI, you can set how you want the data to be exported by default. But those same settings that are in these default preferences are going to be available in the export options. So really, once you set it in the export options, along with the layers, attributes, and pop-ups, all these settings that we're about to go through are all going to be saved with the Arc Pro map document. So the default settings kind of get you to a point of that, but really you're going to want to, once you get the data in there and you start kind of manipulating it to generate an output that you're looking for, all of those things are going to be saved. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started on the layers side of things. So obviously what we can do here is up above, there's a couple of check boxes. I want to create a layered GeoPDF. The next one is, hey, I want to layer my features and my labels independently. You can do that if you'd like. I typically turn that one off. Usually when I turn a layer, when I see a feature, I want to see the label at the same time. If I turn that feature off, the label really doesn't add any value for me, so I remove it. A couple of things here. You can hit that little automatically choose the layers. So it will look at, on the far left, what's in your table of contents, and it will automatically populate that one-to-one over there to the right. So turn that on basically because kind of a reset. Turning it off will allow you then to come in here and manually drag and drop the layers how you'd like to see it. So, Scott just moved over the hospitals and he's going to move over a few other things. and drag them over to kind of where we are going to generate. And then, Scott, things are a little slow.
Yeah, it's dragging a little bit. So yeah, you can move the layer information back and forth if you want to.
Mhm.
Whenever if you decide you make an error, there's a clear layers button down there.
Mhm.
Or you can auto-populate. It's we try to make it as intuitive as possible. There's a lot of data. Again, I said spatial data is hard. So a lot of times you don't need to send so much information. That's the reason we let you drag individual layers across. So, again, so much content, maybe you want to minimize the amount of information that you do deliver. So
Mhm.
we have put all of those controls in place for you.
Yeah. And then as well as, so, Scott can kind of walk you through how we could turn off layers by default. So, if when you open up the end product, the GeoPDF, if you don't want to have everything turned on, then you can just hit those little check boxes, or you can select the layer and right mouse click, and it'll bring up this little dialogue that Scott's kind of walking through right now. So I can say, hey, I want to group a layer. So I want to group all the images that I have attached as sources. I want to group all of those into a single layer. So when I click on imagery, or it's just gonna turn those on. So basically, it'll nest all those things together, so you don't see the actual individual file names. You'll just see a single layer called imagery. So that's basically what that would do. If you don't want to see the marginalia in your as a layered part of the layers in the GeoPDF, you could right mouse click on that one and actually say, hey, go ahead and remove that from the layers. And then you can also go into, let's say, by default, you don't want to turn the imagery on because maybe it takes a little bit longer to draw. You can do the same thing for wetlands. So, you can make these kind of symmetrical to the end user. So, if wetlands is important, but you don't necessarily have to have it on, but it's going to be there for future reference, you can turn that one off by default. And again, you can move these things around. You can do all sorts of things to the layering that's going to be a part of the GeoPDF for your map series. But the data inside of Arc Pro never changes. So all of your settings and layering hierarchies, all those things don't change as far as the naming and all that. All that would stay the same within Arc Pro itself. It's what Scott's doing and presenting right now is really just to give that user experience some tweaks to make life a little bit easier for him to navigate. And that is layering. Next thing is the attributes. So if you click on that, we offer a couple of different options for attributes. You can obviously not share any data at all, which would be none. Some of the historic functionality within Adobe was this thing called object data. And so the object data is actually nested within the Adobe document structure itself. And we've got a toolbar that you can actually click on that feature and look at those individual attributes and field values that you've assigned as within your GIS layer itself. The kind of the next flavor of that is a thing called the geo package. Now the geo package is quickly becoming a very popular and format to share not only the GIS data itself, but you can also we haven't implemented this yet, but we could also pack a lot of other things in there. So beyond just being able to view the layers and view the attributes inside of Adobe, we've incorporated this thing called a geo package, which will actually, it's a small GIS database. So all of the layers that I've listed here for hospitals, the FAA towers, bridges, buildings, railroads, if there's parcels, you can actually give them the extent of your map, that data set. And it can be actually pulled out of the GeoPDF and shared with any other type of geospatial software that can utilize it to build their own GIS, build their own geospatial products. So, Scott, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the GeoPackage and its origins.
I think that it is important to mention so we actually worked with the U.S. Army on some capabilities that I believe actually kind of begot this GeoPackage capability. They wanted to be able to extrapolate the data that was inside of the PDF. So one of our founders got together with one of the people who was really trying to accomplish this, and identified that the best way to embed all of that data inside of the PDF is to add it as an attachment, add the data as an attachment. But we wanted to be able to have it shared in a common way, something that was easily viewable to whoever it was that wanted to look at the data. They wanted to have the data. So we suggested a SQLite database, and are actually encoding all of that information inside of the GeoPDF itself. And it's not unique. We are business and technology partners with Esri, and we work inside of ArcGIS Pro. But the purpose of the GeoPackage was for it to be open by all other kinds of applications. So I think that's one of the reasons that it's gaining so much traction, is that there are still so many other users that are using QGIS or another open source data GIS application. And the majority of applications that I am familiar with, if it's an EarthAS Imagine or Socket GXP, QGIS, their Esri actually uses it as well. So you can save that GeoPackage where all of your data is stored. You can save that locally and then open it up inside of another project. Okay, so you think, why would you do that? A lot of times, the person who receives the GeoPDF 9 times out of 10 is going to be a decision maker or someone who needs to do something with that data. Or it's going to be someone who, again, let's go back to the person working a utility pole. They need to understand the attributes associated to that utility pole. More often, it's becoming more and more often that the person who receives the GeoPDF actually wants the data, and they have an open source GIS tool that they're relatively familiar with, or they do have an office or an organization that has ArcGIS Pro. If you decide to embed this GeoPackage, they can actually have the data itself. It's altogether a container, not just a representational data, is inside of the PDF, the GeoPDF itself. The other good part about GeoPackage was Adobe limits the amount of content that you can put inside of the GeoPDF as well. And I think it's a hard stop at 32,000 items, which doesn't seem like a lot until you get into road segments or other linear features that have so many different segments, and then you have to convert them to something else. And then, so you can quickly run into a limitation on the amount of objects that you could embed inside of the GeoPDF using the traditional legacy method. We have not run into a limitation during testing or from our customer base where there is a limit as to the amount of attributes that are inside of the GeoPDF product, which opens up a whole another can of worms. How big can the GeoPDF be? How much data can I actually put inside of there? So, but responsibly speaking, there is no limitation to the amount of data that you can embed in the GeoPDF, and the performance is tremendously better, much better in handling that much information inside of a single file.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, if you don't want to share your data, or if there's certain aspects of the layer that you don't want to share, there's maybe some other sensitive information in there. You can actually go into ArcPro, right mouse click on the layer, and actually just hide or turn off that attribute. And then those fields that you hide or turn off will not be included in the export. So
yeah, that's a good point, John.
there's lots of different ways to share your data, only the data that you want to share with your intended users. So yeah, that's it. Let's see. And then next on the list, I think, are a thing called pop-ups. So pop-ups. So these are basically like a hyperlink in ArcGIS Pro. And basically it can link to a couple of different things. It's based on the type of pop-up you created inside of ArcGIS Pro in the layer itself. So, if you've got a layer that's, let's say, bridges, and part of one of the fields inside of that layer has a photo related to it on a server, maybe through AWS or maybe through your organization, or it's some other type of access is available. You can put all of that in a pop-up. Now, of course, the accessibility of that link to the photo, whether it's on AWS or on your internal server, is going to be the users are going to actually going to have access to or be able to have access to those locations to see those photos and other related documents. But all the other information would be put in there, and we'll walk through what a pop-up looks like in GeoPDF. But if you went in, let's say, to the bridges and Scott clicked on it in ArcGIS Pro, what you're going to find is a hyperlink that's going to pop up. So we're going to, in Adobe's Acrobat or Reader through the TerraGo toolbar, we basically mimic that type of behavior, and we'll walk you through that here in a little bit. But it's just, whatever layers you've created a pop-up, you turn those and select those on in our tools, and then it will embed that within the Adobe GeoPDF.
Yeah. So, and there are also there are benefits, obviously, because it's external content that you can share, and it's all inside of that individual GeoPDF product. But remember, you're going to have some increases in file size when you start adding photos and things like that too.
Yeah, definitely be aware of that. Yes, you don't want to, and there's some initial settings that you can do to, when you create your pop-up at first, it just pops, what it'll do is it'll just bring in every single field of that layer. So, if it's got 127 fields, that's what you're going to get. So you'll need to adjust, what you actually want to share or accomplish with those pop-ups, and bring that down to a more manageable level, maybe, I don't know, 7, 8, 10, 12, however many fields you actually want to utilize. All right, that's pop-ups. And we're going to get to now the export option. So here's really where you've got a lot of flexibility in how to build out the output of the export. So starting at the top, working my way down, I've got my vector resolution. That is going to directly reflect on basically the symbology of your points, lines, and polygons, right? So if you've got a lot of complex symbology, you might want to make the DPI a bit better so that you can share that with your intended user. Next part down is the raster options. So in here, you can actually use that little slider to say, hey, I want my raster resolution. I want to give the best resolution I can, or I'm in it to provide performance. So I can adjust that to the fastest, which is the lowest resolution that's available. Typically, we just leave that around normal. It does a pretty decent job of building this out for you. obviously you're just going to want to, based on your sources and the resolution of those sources, you'll need to kind of play around with that value, between best and fast, to give you the kind of the sweet spot when you provide these exports. I can generate image pyramids. So if I'm generating sometimes when you create a GeoPDF, that image takes a really long time to actually draw. And so those image pyramids really help to increase the performance for the end user. Typically, we'll turn those on. And based on the zoom level, the resolution of those images obviously will become better or less. Compatibility, we typically just leave this to an OGC preferred 5+. That's there's a bunch of different versions of our toolbar out there, but leaving at that value, you're going to catch about 99.9% of what you need. We always want to optimize the PDF file size. So that's going to help to bring down those file sizes so you can share your content with your end user in an effective manner. We always want to embed the document fonts. So, when you have an Esri type of GIS, when you do the install of that software, you get hundreds of Esri fonts to help with symbology of your content. And so your end user doesn't have those fonts installed on their PC or device. So embedding those fonts is going to be important to make sure that you maintain that symbology. Otherwise, they're just going to see a bunch of symbols that look like wingdings. So, and then a couple of the things that are interesting that we can do is we can actually append other sources, other PDF sources to your output. So let's say at the end of this map sheet, there is there's some other additional information that you want to include to your end user. So, a good example might be, Scott might have some of the spec sheets of what ArcGIS Pro is for TerraGo. And so you could add that to the end of this, or it would just be more of maybe a metadata file that says, hey, the intended use of this map is, for this. And here's some history on the data sources that were included in the file itself. So it gives you some interesting options to be able to add that PDF either as the first page, so when you first open the file, or as supporting information. You can add it as the second page as the users going through the GeoPDF itself.
Sorry about that, John. I was trying to locate the data sheet for you. So I put the GeoPDF Publisher for ArcGIS Pro data sheet on there.
Yeah, you're good. Another interesting options we've got is around Adobe embedding Adobe security. So you can require a password when you open up the document. So basically, only those intended users of this export would have that password, and so they're not going to be able to even open the document if the password is entered incorrectly. One of the other things you can do is, okay, well, it doesn't have a password, but we don't allow changes, editing, printing of the GeoPDF, and so you can put passwords on that. So there's a bunch of different security options that we've been able to take advantage of. And those are all Adobe Acrobat and Reader kind of standard security options within the Adobe environment. But we're not going to turn any of those on. And so then that's it. You go ahead and hit the export button. It'll give you a couple of options. You can actually export all the map series itself, or you can just export the current page. And then you can do a couple of different, like maybe a page range. You can say, hey, I want a single PDF if I'm doing a map series, or I want to generate multiple pages based on the map series information, whether it's a page name or number. And then I can basically set the output folder. And if I want to include, let's say, some additional information on the file name itself, I can set a base page name. I think is what Scott it's got in there. It says Denver New Layout 3. So at the beginning of each one of those file names, you're going to see that, and then you hit OK, and it will it'll run through the 9 pages, or it'll run through the individual page. It takes a couple of minutes for it to generate a GeoPDF based on the content, imagery, vector, and Scott then can jump over to the GeoPDF and kind of walk us through the toolbar.
Sure. So that is rendering there. As you see, it'll take a minute or two. Again, we're going through the process of actually grabbing a whole lot of all of the attribute information that we embedded inside of the file, and so forth. So I am going to browse here. I have another GeoPDF that John actually generated for us today. And just to give you an idea of what's inside of the realm of possible, this doesn't have any imagery data in it, but just from the vector attribute information, you'll see here that I am in Adobe Acrobat because TerraGo pays for me to have Adobe Acrobat. I have to sign documents all the time, things like that. So, but the capability that I'm going to show you is all available in Adobe Reader. So this is the Houston data set, and then this is the GeoPDF that we just created. So inside you see that I have all of the layers that are specified, but again, I decided to set the initial visibility for my imagery is shut off, but everything is still there. Wetlands, there aren't a whole lot in that case. The GeoPDF toolbar are these two toolbars. There's the GeoPDF toolbar, and then there is a GeoMark toolbar. Inside of this GeoPDF, I'm going to go through a couple of features and functions here that are pretty interesting and valuable to the end user. First, notice at the bottom right-hand corner, this is where I have my longitude and latitude. There are a couple of different ways to access all the tools inside of Adobe. Just like in many other software applications, there's the GeoPDF toolbar here, and the GeoMark toolbar here. If you have any questions about the product that you're actually viewing, you can look at the properties. Sometimes people will deliver a PDF, but it's not actually a GeoPDF. You can look right here in the properties and it will tell you it is, and that has to be enabled or has to say yes in order for all of our tools to work. Again, coordinate information at the bottom right. A lot of times we need to freeze. We need to know the specific location, an X and a Y for a specific location. So using this Geo tool, I can I can freeze those coordinates, which freezes that display down here, and I can actually deliver or relay coordinates to a specific point inside of this GeoPDF. You can also right-click on that and hide coordinates down here in the bottom right-hand corner. You can also Google Maps. So for instance, I don't have imagery of this area. I can using a JavaScript, I can actually pass that X and Y directly across to Google Maps and get my location. You'll see that this is in the greater Houston area as well. I think it's just southeast of Houston proper. Yep. So that's the area that we're working in. Here's the geolocator, which lets me change. You remember I said international, a lot of contents shared with international partners or customers. So you can actually go in and set different projection parameters to display that coordinate information in one of 3,275 different parameters, all predefined. So from there, I can also just get another dynamic display. I can also, John, when he created this GeoPDF, I believe he embedded it. As many of you are familiar within traditional or legacy ArcGIS, ArcMap, there was an identify tool. So we have adopted that same vernacular. And now someone can select the identify tool and go in and select an individual feature, and it will launch this dialog. And this is where it's accessing that attribute content directly from ArcGIS Pro.
Hey, Scott, there's
So
there's a little bit of a lag. So
okay.
There you go. So we're just now seeing the identify tool come up.
Okay. So yeah, after I select this identify, this dialog box launches. And I went in and selected an individual parcel here. So it looks like this is tax assessor information, possibly. Owner name, location, how big the area is. And again, all this can be limited by what you choose to embed from the attribute table. So a really nice way to carry over all that attribute information from the GIS, and it is all stored right here inside of this geo package. Okay, it's just an attachment to the PDF, and all self-contained. We talked about people being able to answer their own questions. So I want to be able to take measurements. I can measure a linear feature or a linear area. How far is it from point A to point B? Multivertice. So my dialog box is kind of small here for my resolution. You can measure links, you can measure areas. You can also measure circular areas. So if I wanted to just see how far this area is, you see, I get a circular measurement, and that's 87 acres. You can change those units directly here as well. So we want to be able to have people answer their own questions. At the last bullet on one of the slides is to mitigate requests. Have users answer their own questions so you can continue to do your analysis. There is a location services capability as well. So you have Windows 10 and later has location services, so you can actually leverage location services directly on the PDF, and it'll show you where you're located. The next capability are the geomarks. So this is where we begin to talk about adding our own context directly to a map. So I can add text. All of this information is going to be spatial in nature, in that I can add my own text. I can add a rectangle directly to this this GeoPDF as well. And let me turn this filter off. I can add, points, lines, polygons directly to that feature or to the GeoPDF, and add my own information. So if I call this 25 or 10 July, for webinar. And this is just a rectangle. This can have all kinds of different information inside of it. Here are the attributes of when it was actually generated. All of this is pulled from Adobe as well. We have a forms capability in full disclosure. These forms are not at a prime time level just now. We are working to leverage GeoPackage so that you can work with you can capture structured data which will mirror what your attribute table looks like inside of ArcGIS Pro. So it's a desktop structured data collection capability that will mirror your attributes inside of ArcGIS Pro. You can add attachments as well, spreadsheets or PowerPoints, photos, videos, whatever it may be. And they're the four corners to the rectangle. So here's the geometry again. That can be points. That's a rectangle. I could add a linear feature, another line, multi-vertice if I want to, polygons. It's really a geospatial collaboration capability is what we've done here, is being able to actually send data to a decision maker or an end user, let them mark it up and ask really intelligent questions. All of this data is spatial, so you could bring it back into ArcGIS Pro as a shapefile or bring it into Google Earth as a KML, whatever the case may be. So we want to be able to kind of minimize the gap between the people who are using the data and and the analyst or the engineer that's actually creating the data. So there are a series of stamps as well. So if there's a civil disturbance in a certain area, those are point features. To close that loop, we can export those geomarks. And I'm going to export these directly to my desktop. And again, it can go KML, shapefile, or now it can go to GeoPackage, which again, we're trying to make this as seamless as possible. ArcGIS Pro, Socket, ERDAS, QGIS, all of these other applications can handle a GeoPackage. So you can save that data directly as GeoPackage. We'll go lowest common denominator with KML, and it's at my desktop. So I'm going to call this 10 July and hit save. It's going to ask me if I want to export geomarks or just the annotations. I can do both. I'm going to say geomarks, select OK. So now on my desktop, I'm going to go to my desktop here. And I spelled July wrong, but so now it's actually going to launch Google Earth and drive me directly to that location where that information was captured, southeast of Houston. And render that information that was collected. So here's the circle, that polygon that I created. Here is the rectangle that was created. It's the subject. And again, that chain of custody carries over as well. With that, I did manage to run a little bit longer than I wanted to. There were a couple of questions here. Does this work with GeoTIFF and ArcGIS image mosaics? I do know it does work with GeoTIFF. About the ArcGIS image mosaics, John, are you familiar? That would actually be inside of ArcGIS, and I don't know if we're talking about the Raster tool. GeoPDF Publisher for Raster works with GeoTIFFs, and that's generally where you get the greatest compression as well. John, do you know about the ArcGIS image mosaics?
I'd have to look into that a bit. I don't know if that is kind of a web service, that is an image service that's providing that content. I'd have to dig into that one a bit.
Okay, I'm not sure if you're still on. We've had some people drop out and come in. But my email address. You have my email address. You probably do from the invite as well. So if you would send us your details, we'll make sure we get that answered for you. And the answer is yes. On the next question, can you filter or hide sensitive fields and only include relevant fields for the specific export purpose? And the answer is yes, by hiding or turning those attributes off directly inside of ArcGIS Pro. To close this up within the hour, Madison was able to go ahead and load some case studies on here. Some of these are really interesting. One of the more interesting and more sophisticated products in the chat is the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Division of Canada. Highly encourage you to go look at that. It's a very, very nice product that they put together there. There are some federal government use cases for natural resources, continue to be customers for years. And I also uploaded the raster image. If you're interested, I can go ahead and get anyone here. We are recording this, but I can get anyone here an evaluation version of the software as well. If you'll just email me and let me know, I can go ahead and get that done for you for a couple of weeks, and you can kick the tires and start sharing those products with your decision makers or end users. With that, I did run a minute late, so my apologies, but a lot of good information. Appreciate the thoroughness, John, and thanks for the assistance and the help on this. And thank you, Madison, for all the logistics. Thank you for attending. Have a great Thursday, a good rest of the week, and hopefully, if you're attending the Esri conference next week, you'll stop by booth 325 and see us. Thanks.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right. You guys have a good day.